This clip is brought to you by Gnostic TV. ASQ is proud to stream on Gnostic TV, a platform for seekers, mystics, and creators. Want to share your own soul-led message? Scan the code or click the link to get started. Welcome to the ASQ Podcast, where midlife transitions become your greatest teachers. Have you ever felt like you've outgrown your own life? You've built the career, checked the boxes, but something still feels off? Today's guest, Taryn Voget, is the founder of the Genius Lab and a powerful guide for those standing at the edge of reinvention. In this conversation, she takes us inside the process she uses to help people rediscover the genius they've always had, and shows how that hidden brilliance can unlock the next soul-aligned chapter. This isn't about chasing success, it's about remembering what you're made of. Stay tuned. Hello, Taryn. How are you? Thank you so much for being with us today on the ASQ Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait for this conversation.
Same. I actually have been looking forward to it for a couple of days now, so I'm really excited to actually be here with you and meeting you, and looking forward to learning about your quest. I like to call it the quest, ASQ, a soul's quest. I don't know if you know what that stood for, but yeah. So let's get started without further ado. The first question that we always like to ask on our podcast is, when we're getting to know our guests, is where were you pitched? So your family structure, where are you from, parents, siblings, school?
Well, yeah, I am one of 6 kids, which I feel like is unusual. There's 5 girls and then my youngest brother. So he's the baby. And I am the second oldest. And my parents are still together after, I think they just celebrated their 55th wedding anniversary.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I grew up in the Bay Area, California, till I was about 13. And then we moved to Southern Oregon. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I have gone to Hicksville. But I ended up actually loving it.
Wow, that's a big switch. Oregon is beautiful.
Then I go to Ashland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Which is actually a lovely town. And but my dad still kept his company. He was in semiconductors and early day semiconductor guy, which of course is all the hot thing right now. But at the time, it was kind of like the original .com in the Bay Area. So that was his thing. He was in semiconductors. So he kept his company in California, but moved all of us to Southern Oregon. And he commuted every week for,
Did he really?
20 years. It was crazy.
How far? I know they're not that far, but how far is that?
It's about a 7-hour drive. And then that's how I got my driver's permit, is I would just drive the I-5. And that's how I learned to drive in the summers. I'd go work with him.
Oh, how fun.
I started business from way before labor laws, I'm sure we're allowing it. But I think I was 13 when I started working for him. And then I got my permit at 15 and I would drive down with him. And I spent summers and holidays working at his little semiconductor company. And then, and then I went off to college on the East Coast and went into consulting and kind of had all my big career there.
Okay. So when you were in Oregon, that's a big shift, right? You go from California to Oregon. What was that like? How was that for you? What, as a child, did you make friends quickly? Was it kind of like, oh, this is normal, I have my family, I'm good? I mean, it's a big shift.
And this is where I've learned so many times in my life, the worst thing ends up always being the best thing. And maybe you've had this experience. So I remember we were driving into Southern Oregon, and Ashland, Oregon is a town of, 25,000 people. It's small. It's quite famous because it has a Shakespeare festival and it's a big theater town and a college town. So it's got like a lot going on for being as tiny as it is.
Right.
But I remember we were driving down one of the main roads, and it's called East Main. And it just happens to have quite a lot of farms on that road, even though it's inside the city limits. And I remember breaking down in tears we had a van. And I was like, we've moved to Hicksville. I was so bummed out. And my parents bought this 50-acre property that had nothing on it. They ended up building a house, and we lived in a single wide mobile home with 6 kids and 2 parents in a single wide mobile home for 18 months while they were building the house because they wanted to be on property. And it was like 50 acres of cow pasture. I mean, get the visual in your brain. Like, it was a 50-acre cow pasture with a single wide mobile home.
Huge.
And like a construction site. And that was when I was 13, and we all slept on the floor because there wasn't enough room for beds.
Not enough space. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we moved into this huge, they kind of built their dream house. We moved into this big, huge house. And, but yeah, it was a pretty stark contrast. But what was interesting about Southern Oregon is that I just did not feel like it was my vibe. I felt like I was way more cosmopolitan. However, I ended up being the popular kid when I got to high school because I was this girl from California that was sort of exotic and ended up getting into sports and doing really well. And somehow I got these amazing teachers, amazing friends, like everything just clicked when I was there. But I never did feel exactly like an Oregonian. So I ended up leaving Oregon off to college and kind of never went back. But I was really glad I was there for middle school and high school.
Now, are your parents still there?
They are still there. They are still in the
Okay.
same house. They've, renovated it, and it's a different house, but the same house. Mhm.
Right. So do you think that environment going from I mean, you were young still, but you're kind of impressionable at that age, so things are shifting, you're experiencing new things, feeling new things. Do you feel like that shift in the environment changed you in any way? Did it make you like appreciate things differently, see things differently? Were your perspectives different? I mean, obviously you grew into in high school, you Miss Popular, amazing, had a lot of friends and whatever. So something there shifted for you that was okay. I'm okay. This is good. I mean, you have no choice, right? You have to stay there.
You never really know what the sliding door is. Had I stayed in the Bay Area versus had I gone to Oregon, I think the advantage, what did change me was when you're in a small town, you just get more attention. And for me, it was in a good way. The teachers just had fewer students. The schools were really good. Actually, the reason the schools there are so good, and one of the reasons my parents moved there is the Southern Oregon University, which is in Ashland, is a teaching college. And so they teach teachers. And so the best of them come into the school district to become teachers. So there's these incredible teachers in Ashland, Oregon, of all places.
Right.
And so I feel like I got a lot of attention that I would have never got living in the Bay Area. And, it's a small town. You have a ton of freedom. It was super safe. So I had a long leash. My parents were not micromanagers, nor were they helicopter parents. They were very much the free range kind of parents.
Right. Which
And
probably would have been different had you stayed in California.
Yeah, they would have never been that way. It would have been too dangerous. And so in rinky-dink Ashland, Oregon, where nothing happens, they felt like we could just ride our bikes all over town. So I had a lot of freedom. And I got a lot of really great attention in a good way from teachers that actually really cared about teaching. They were really quite good. And, played sports and had just good friends. So yeah, I think it probably did change me because I feel like I got more focused there and more opportunities for growth than I ever would have in a big city.
Okay. That's interesting. It's a
Yeah,
nice
I never thought
upbringing.
about it until you asked me that, but that's probably true.
Yeah. It's funny because I know, I had sort of a similar, I moved down to Florida because I'm in Florida when I was 14. And I was all excited about, beaches and this and that and it was so different and I was so devastated by it. So it's interesting that you had a unique, I had a good experience too. I became, had a lot of friends and whatever, but it's interesting to hear the similarity in the story there because I cried. I remember crying all the way down in this rider. I think it was a big yellow truck with our stuff in it. And I cried too. So I get that.
Yeah, especially when your whole world when you're 13 is all about fitting in and being popular and being cool and your friends, that's your whole universe. And then when that gets really uprooted, it's really hard when you don't have a lot of frame of reference and you're just very impressionable.
Yeah, definitely. Ugh, I feel like that's like the struggle.
Yeah.
So then you moved to the East Coast. You said you went to college on the East Coast?
I did. I ended up getting into Georgetown, and I was really passionate about business. Even in high school, I had this incredible business teacher, and he just made it just fun, and I was passionate about it. And believe it or not, they had these business competitions, and I did that and did really well. And then I went on to business school, undergraduate business school at Georgetown, which was, at the time, I think it probably still is, it was considered one of the top undergraduate business programs. And I have always been a wanderlust. I've just always wanted to go and see and do. And so my parents at the time really couldn't afford to take me back to college. And so I had to go by myself. I mean, they had 6 kids too. So there was a lot of younger ones that needed care and they just were at a place where they really couldn't afford to take me. So I got myself on an airplane and I took myself to college and ended up I got into Georgetown and it was great. The East Coast is like an alternate universe to the West Coast and everyone would pronounce Oregon. I mean, that's just how it was. So felt like I was in a strange land, but it was a really good experience being in DC. And I made a few good friends. I had, I did the business thing. I did some leadership stuff in Georgetown and went abroad, studied abroad at Oxford, which was really cool.
That
And
is.
then
Wow.
one of the great things about Georgetown was that they do so much career prep. And they really make sure that you get a job when you graduate. And so your whole senior year is, I mean, yeah, the academics are there, but nobody cares. Everyone's just like, I need a job. So
Oh, yeah. You're about to graduate. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
and I was in debt because I had to take out loans to do it. And so I was like, not only do I need a job, I actually need a good job. And so I interviewed so many places. That was like my full-time job, trying to get a job.
yeah.
And I ended up getting a bunch of job offers, but I took the one that just, I don't know, it just spoke to me. I ended up going into consulting and I worked for Accenture right out of college.
Wow.
Big consulting
Wow.
firm, yeah.
Now, how was that for you? Because I feel like that's such a big step. It's a big, I mean, I guess you felt prepared. So you were like, okay, this is great. Or, how was that for you?
Gosh, it was crazy how well prepared I felt for it. I think part of it is at Georgetown, they were so passionate about group projects. And so for 4 years, I just did group projects. And
Yeah.
so that's all business is working with a team to get something done and present it.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of experience doing that. And then, of course, when you go into Accenture, they recruit heavily out of university. And so they've got a lot of young people right out of college. And there's a whole program. You go to a 3-week training school in Chicago and you get put on projects where they kind of take care of you. But never once did I feel like I couldn't do the work. That was never the thing. It was more just navigating politics is where I feel like I struggled more than the actual work. Because
Okay.
there's not just politics internally at a consulting firm, but you've got all the client politics that I was. It took me a while to get savvy to what those were.
Huh. Okay. So was there any point for you in this transition? Now you're out of college, you're in a I don't want to say it this way, but I'm going to say it, a big girl's job, right? You're doing something that you've been preparing for and you're excited about it. Was there a point in your life where you felt that like a turning point, something that shifted in you that you were just kind of like, I don't know if I'm doing what I want to do, or
Oh, yeah.
if I'm in alignment, or if I'm feeling like this nagging pull that I should be doing something different. Did you
Yeah, this is a
experience
crazy
anything?
dramatic story. Actually, I love that you asked me this because it was probably the single biggest turning point in my life. So I had done consulting. I worked for Accenture for a bunch of years, and then I started my own consulting firm when I was 28, basically doing the exact same thing, just making more money. And I
Uh-huh.
had to kind of get my own clients. And so I did that until I was 33. And maybe I was 32. Anyway, right about that time. And I just had this moment where I was tired. I was burned out. I mean, these are big, global, complex, 80-hour week projects. They take everything you have. And the crazy thing about consulting is that you give everything, but the client gets all the credit. And I just learned from a young age, in a way, not to ever expect credit. You just show up, you do the work, you do amazing stuff, and the client's like, look what a great job we did, and you don't get any credit. And I just kind of reached this point where, and I'm not saying that as like criticism, it's just kind of how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I get that.
and so I reached this point where I was just tired. I mean, just 12 or 10 years of just hard projects, complicated, they just take a lot of brain power to do. And, every client's, everything needed to be done yesterday and
Yeah.
all the things.
Yeah. They all have different
And so
needs.
I was like, I'm kind of done working on everyone else's projects. I want to do my own project. And I'd kind of laid out the criteria. I mean, I didn't like write it down. It was just kind of in my mind where I thought, I want to do something that no one's ever done before. I want to build my own business. I want to do something that would actually help people. I want to do something innovative. And I just kind of had this list of like, I just want to do something cool and big and new that helps people. And I spent about 9 months trying to figure out what that was. Now, at the same time, I had taken a bunch of psychology classes on the weekend because I just find it really interesting, like behavioral science classes. And so I kind of had that going on. And I had ended up becoming a coach in the same class after I'd gone through the program to come back and help the students. I mean, these are all adults, but to help the students get through it.
Right.
And one day, and I was really racking my brain on what can I do? What am I going to do? What's my new business? And I was driving over the Golden Gate Bridge. I was living in Sausalito, driving over the Golden Gate Bridge to this psychology class that was in the South, or was in the Bay Area, kind of near the airport. And I'm driving over the bridge, not thinking about anything. And all of a sudden, this like bolt of lightning hits my head, and it literally felt like a flash. And I saw the whole thing for my next company, or the company I was going to build. I saw the name, the Everyday Genius Institute. I saw what it was. I saw how to build it. I saw the products. I saw how to do it. And it all happened just like that in a flash. It was the craziest thing. It's like it happened in a minute and in an instant, but time stopped. And I just saw the whole thing. And I was like, I'm going to build the Everyday Genius Institute. And here's the crazy part of the story. I get to this class, and it was the first day of this coaching class. And I meet this guy who's one of the top wine tasters in the world. And he actually teaches people to become wine tasters.
Oh.
And I was like, this is going to be my first everyday genius. And I'm going to build a product about how to deconstruct his strategy about how he does it, and then package it back up in a book and a DVD set so that people could learn how to shortcut their learning curve to tasting wine like one of the world's best. And that's how the Everyday Genius Institute started.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And then the
crazy.
resources just kind of weirdly lined up. It's not like I was sitting on piles of money, but like everything just clicked and lined up, and all the people and all the teams and everything I needed was like bam, 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 bam. It was wild. It was a wild ride. I did that for about 4 years, and I built a bunch of products. And at the time, the Everyday Genius Institute, the thought was that I could take people that were brilliant at what they do, deconstruct how they do it in a very subconscious way, and then package it back up so that you could learn. And I had products on wine tasting, on copywriting, on marketing, on study strategies for students. And so each of these products was its own book and DVD set where you could really learn how the best do what they do.
Wow.
Yeah. And I,
So let
Kid
me-
Whisperer Communication Strategies with Kids was one of them. That was probably one of my favorite projects because she's just so interesting. Mhm.
Wow. I want you to go into detail about what you're doing, or about what you did, or what maybe you're still doing. You're still doing. But I have a question, because you made me think of something, and this is like completely like out of left field. Everybody, so we all were pitched into this family. We don't choose our family. We don't choose where we're going to live. We don't choose all these things, right? You ended up in Oregon. Am I saying that right? Oregon. And then I always used to say Oregon, believe me.
That's
So
the East Coast thing. Yep.
it's terrible. So you blended in, you got through school, things turned out okay, everything was great. You move away, you take this leap, and you go off to college by yourself to Washington, D.C., which is a huge step, right? For some people. A lot of people don't want to leave their parents' vicinity. They want to stay close to their family, et cetera, right? No issues with that, but that's a brave step. And then you do consulting, and then you realized, I want to do something for me after all that you had gone through, building other people up, making them look great, et cetera, right? What in that moment, so you said it was like a lightning bolt, and then all of a sudden everything was laid out for you, which I think is fantastic, because I don't think it comes that it
the only
comes
time it's
differently
ever
for
happened.
everybody.
I wish I could recreate that. It happened once. Usually the signs are much more subtle, but yes.
So that's what I was going to ask you, is like that's pretty like abrupt, right? It just hit you, and it was all laid out for you. But what were because you make it sound so easy, and maybe it was, but what were challenges that you had to overcome and face? I mean, there's a fear in starting, your own business. There's a fear in getting people to buy into that. There's how are you going to make this happen if I don't have capital? I don't like. Can you talk to me about that? Like, what pushed you, what that threshold was for you?
This is probably my favorite question, because I think so many of us struggle, and I've walked through the fire of fear so many times. I'm even doing it as we speak, walking through the fire of fear. And that's really what it is you just have to walk through it. But I'll never forget when I was living in the Bay Area, I would get this ski house in the winter with a bunch of friends, and we just rented a house and we'd go skiing. And one time we got snowed in, and we had nothing to do but watch TV, and Bear Grylls' Man vs. Wild was on repeat that weekend. And I
Love that show.
binged hard on Bear Grylls' Man vs. Wild. And I just had this moment where I thought, this guy is living this crazy, incredible life, traveling the world, meeting interesting people, doing these crazy adventures. And he is very open about how much fear he's in all the time, but he just feels the fear and does it anyway. So I get home after this crazy weekend, and I read his books, because he'd written a couple of books. And I just thought, God, this guy is really interesting, because nobody really talks about fear like this, where it's terrifying, but you just walk through the terror. And on the other side is expansion, it's growth, it's insight, it's possibly success, it's all these things, but you just walk through the fear. So that kind of became my mantra. And so the very first website I ever put up was my own. It was tarynvoget.com. Or maybe it was Carrera Consulting. I've had a few versions of this website, but anyway, it was my first website. And I remember just almost wanting to like literally throw up before I hit the publish button to make my website go live. And this is a lot of years ago now, but I was like, oh my God. And I was hyperventilating. And for me, the big fear is being seen. That has always been my biggest fear, is being seen. Because in my mind, something really terrible is going to happen if people actually see me. And so putting a website up, putting social media out, like doing all of these things for me. For a lot of people, especially the younger generation, they're like, oh my God, whatever. That's just like how we breathe.
I know.
But for me, this has been my fire, is walking through the fear of like being seen and putting myself out there. And so doing Everyday Genius was interesting. And it was the first version of Everyday Genius. I'm on V2 of Everyday Genius, but the first version that I mentioned it was terrifying because it was me on video. It was me putting my work out there. It was me with a business idea that no one had done before. I mean, it kind of met all those criteria. And the terror of not just being seen, but being accepted, having people understand what you're doing, not laugh at you, like just all the things. And this is what I say about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, the business decisions aren't the hard things. It's the emotional management that makes or breaks you.
Wow. Yeah, that's you hit it right on the head for me right there. Yeah. True.
Yeah. And so I think for me, it's just been a long journey of trying to find what excites me, feeling terrified every single step of the way, just breathing through the fear. And sometimes it takes me longer than other times, and just being like, Taryn, you can do this, and just do it. Just do it. And then of course, the minute you actually do it, what you realize is everybody loves your website. People think your TikToks are great. Your content finds its audience. Like the fear is all in our mind, but it's so real.
Oh yeah,
You
totally.
just
We're our
sometimes
our
hard to
worst
get through it.
critic. Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
our worst critic. We judge ourselves the most harshly, right? So I'm glad you said that, because I'm curious, when you decided that this was what you were going to do, this version 1, were there moments where you thought, no, I can't do this. I can't. Like, was there self-doubt? Was there that trepidation? I mean, aside from what you've already said, did you ever step back and go, I don't know about this. This isn't going to work?
What was interesting about that particular experience, which I've only had one time in my life where I saw it all laid out, is I actually saw the plan and how to do it. And it was so clear that I never questioned the how. It was like, this is how to do it. I'm in a scenario now where I'm not having that experience, and I wake up every day like, I don't know what to do. But that particular time in my life, I didn't question the how. I kind of knew how. What was hard for me just personally is, I'd never done a bunch of video work before. I'd never scripted video. I'd never deconstructed a genius before. I mean, it was a lot of stuff I had to learn, and I had to learn very quickly, but I think that's probably something I'm good at, is learning things quickly. And so I just would figure it out and do it. And I made a bunch of mistakes. I completely threw out the first $10,000 batch of products, and I realized I didn't like how they turned out. Okay, lesson learned: if you ever print product, don't print 10,000, or I think I printed 1,000 units at the first time. Don't do that. I mean, I've made every mistake there is in the product space. So I threw it out because I didn't end up liking it, and I was like, I could do better. And so I reprinted them and I made them better. That was my first product. And I mean, like I said, I've made every mistake in the product business. What I learned about a product business, especially like a book and a DVD set, is the margins when you go wholesale to retail are really low. Like I was in Barnes and Noble and Staples and Office Max and these companies, very low margins, and they don't market it for you. So it wasn't particularly profitable. In retrospect, I would have been much better off going direct to consumer and having a marketing budget. But these are all things you learn. Yeah. And so, yeah, there was a lot of mistakes that I made. I say mistakes, just things. I don't even like the word mistake. There's a lot of things I learned about what to do and what not to do and how to do it. And so it wasn't the questioning the how necessarily, even though I did definitely do things in ways that I would change again for the next time. It was more like the terror of being on a video, of putting a video out on a DVD that was available in a box store where people could see my face.
Yeah.
I mean, those were my fears. It wasn't the actual content.
Do you do this, and this, I'm just asking, just because, do you do this thing where you would record and then you're like, no, I don't like that one, delete. And then you do it again and you don't like that one. And then 2 hours later, you're still trying to record this video? Cause that's me.
Oh,
It's terrible.
100%. And then, I
Especially
mean,
you're
I've been
doing a
making a lot of videos on
DVD.
YouTube and, the final one looks amazing. You didn't see the 28 takes before that one. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Well, what was actually interesting about Everyday Genius V1 is that I had a film crew and we had a studio set and I
Oh,
only had so
wow.
much time. And so it was like, I had to be on it. And so I probably did like 4 or 5 takes and it just had to be right. So
Yeah.
sometimes when you're up against those deadlines, you're on and you perform.
Yeah.
When it's just me and my little iPhone camera, I mean, I'm a little probably less on
Yeah, I'd agree.
that
Because
way.
when I got my husband, my business partner with me, he's not messing around. We need to get this done. So I'm like on it. Maybe I mess up once or twice and then I get it. But if I'm by myself, it's over and over and over again. And I'm like, oh, this is awful. Could spend whole days doing
Well,
a
you're not
video.
alone. I'm the same way.
I'm glad to know I'm not alone. So let me ask you this then. When you started, because I really want to capture, like, so we talked about you doing the version 1. Did you ever get those naysayers? I mean, it sounds like it was hugely popular and people were all about it, but did you have to confront people and the people that were sort of, this isn't going to work, and push through that? I mean, that kind of goes with the fear and just going through it, which you addressed earlier, but I'm just curious if you had any naysayers about what you were doing.
Um, yes and no. The biggest naysayer was in my own mind. The the market really liked the product and the concept. If there was any naysayers, it was that I really developed a deep understanding of how genius actually works, and it is not what people think it is. And so the biggest naysayers have been the ones that really believe that an IQ test is what measures genius, and they just kind of have this belief in their mind that that's what it is. And I have just discovered after interviewing a lot of geniuses that that just has actually no correlation to what you might call genius.
Right.
And so the naysayers were more on the concept of what is genius versus the execution of what I built. That actually was received quite well.
Okay.
The thing for me and the sort of V1 of Everyday Genius was I was propping up all these other people as geniuses. I mean, look at this amazing wine taster, look at this kid whisperer. And it brought me delight to feature their genius. It truly did. But it was never about my genius. It was always me being the host to feature somebody else's. And so that was V1. V2, fast forward 15 years, because I kind of set it down for a little while and kind of went back into consulting and then picked it back up. And now my focus is a bit different. And it's in some ways, I don't know, I want to say featuring myself, but it's really sharing the wisdom that I've gleaned and helping everyday people see their own genius versus featuring somebody that you can learn from. So that's kind of V2. So it's sort of similar but different in that way.
So how did you arrive to that conclusion? So you did V1, wildly successful, great.
I
And
wouldn't call
then
it wildly successful. I would call it successful in many dimensions. I never was able to get enough volume to really make it viable without a bigger cash infusion. So I was sort of undercapitalized. And what happened there was I realized that I was undercapitalized and I had a decision to make, which is I could go and raise the capital to make this bigger, or I could, and this was sort of my body was talking to me. I literally laid on the couch for a month after the last book I did. I was just exhausted. It was 4 years of just insane creative output and pushing. And I was just exhausted. So I was like, okay, Taryn, you can either rally and try to raise money, or you can just pause this for a minute. And I decided to pause it for a minute, mainly because my body was telling me that that's what I needed to do. And then I laid on my couch for a month. I sold everything and I went on a walkabout that I thought was going to last 6 months, ended up lasting 2.5 years.
oh wow,
And yeah, and
you left
I
this
actually
out.
wrote a book about that.
Really?
That's a crazy story too. But and it was really a time to reflect and integrate everything I'd done and come back to what mattered and redefine what success was. Uh, in the process of that walkabout, where by the way, I was broke AF, and somehow I was living this like luxury walkabout because all my friends would call me up because I was available. Do you want to go on vacation? I'll pay for it. I mean, it was crazy stuff like that happened. And then I caught a call out of the blue from SpaceX and they said, hey, would you come in and do some executive coaching? And I'd never actually done just pure executive coaching. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Sure. Ended up still to this day being my hands down all-time favorite client of all time. Really, really enjoyed that experience and the people I got to work with. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I get to work with rocket scientists. How fun. And so that's kind of what brought me back into the corporate world, doing executive coaching and executive consulting for CEOs and executive teams. So I came back into consulting for 10 years, and I did a lot of innovation work with companies. And so I brought everything from my consulting and my genius work. And a parallel process we haven't talked about is I went to shaman school and learned how to do healing work and transformation work with people on a really deep level. And so brought all of this to the corporate world at a kind of a high senior executive level, and was able to help make big transformations in that way. And
Wow.
so that was kind
So
of like life kind of brought me back into the corporate world, and I thought I'd left. But
wow, this is the hero's journey right here. I mean, so you do version 1, and then you realize, okay, this isn't going the way that it needs to go for it to be sustainable, right? If I'm understanding right. And then you thought, okay, not only is my body telling me that I can't do this anymore, I need to stop. And so you stopped. That's a pivotal moment, because like, how do you get the wherewithal to say, okay, I need to restructure this. I need this to work. I need to make this happen. I feel like that in and of itself is a huge going into the darkness, into the wilderness, right? To discover what that is, and then come back out and integrate all the things now that you've learned from the past, from version 1, from all of this, and then now also highlighting yourself at the same time. Like, that's huge. And just the way that you integrate, and it's amazing. I mean,
yeah, I probably make it sound like it was all easy and it just happened. But I mean, this has been a winded everyday genius kind of version 1. That would have probably been around 2012, 2013, where I just set it down.
yeah.
And I let the products just sell on Amazon and let the inventory run out there. And actually, one of the books is still available. But yeah, I make it sound like it was easy, but it's been 12 years of just digging deep for, what do I want to do? What's really my soul's calling? It's really easy to feature other people, but what do I want to do? And this is what I would say, we always teach what we need to learn the most. And so, of course, here I am teaching genius, and teaching people to see their genius. And I think that's really been the biggest thing that I've had to learn is, we do that because it's easy to look at someone else and try to see what we can't see in ourselves. And so it's been a 12-year journey of just really trying to see my own greatness and where my genius is in all of this and what lights my fire. And as I help other people do it, it helps me see it more clearly for myself. And that, I think, is the journey that we're all on, is we take these opportunities in our life, whether it's a career or parenting or a hobby or a partnership, and they're all just opportunities for us to see ourselves in a different way and to grow from it. And I think that this has just really been my journey. And I don't know why genius is so interesting to me. I think I love the energy of genius. It's such a cool energy.
Yeah.
And people think genius is all this big, mystical, magical, mega genius. And yes, those people exist, but I love the idea of the everyday genius. And I just think that that people shine in these moments that just almost go unnoticed, but they're just as cool and genius as the big mega genius you might see on a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I want to hear about this version 2, right? Because now you've faced these challenges, you've gone into the wilderness, come back, and now you've integrated all of this information into what you are now doing. So talk to us about what you're doing. Like, what is it? What's your purpose in this now? What is it?
I feel very deeply excited about helping people step into what I would almost call it their soul's passion and the thing that lights them up. And so much of what gets in our way is our own belief of what's possible. And so over the last 12 years, have done a lot of work around beliefs. I think beliefs are so interesting because they're these little programs that run in our brain that dictate our reality. And because it dictates our reality, we think it's the only way reality can exist. But all it is just like a little programming that just says, okay, reality works like this. You have to work hard to make money. You have to prove yourself for love. I mean, we've all got a billion of these beliefs, and some are really positive. Like, one of mine is I can do it. Like, I just have this little internal thing of I can do it. And that's a positive belief. And we all have, good ones and ones that are probably limiting us. But the ones that limit us, I think, really limit us from sharing our greatness and sharing our light. And so my interest and my passion in this moment is, and it's probably always been this way, I think I'm just more clear about it now, is helping people step into the version that would light their fire, not what they think they should do, not what makes money, not what they've got momentum on that they no longer love, but like, what is that thing that would just light your fire that you can get aligned with and then go do, and remove those limitations one by one, because we all have them, the fears, the belief that we can't, or whatever it is, and just really live a life on fire. I think that's exciting. So
Yeah,
that's what this
totally.
version of Everyday Genius is, because I believe, Taryn's personal belief is that everybody has a genius. Now, whether it's being activated or not is a different question, but that we all come in with something that we're innately gifted with, and with some focus and some passion and some excitement, which is really the fuel for genius, we can really do amazing things and forget about the world. Do it for ourselves because it's fun. I mean, and then
Yeah.
here's the funny paradox. The more you do it for yourself, the more the world loves it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So let me ask you this really quick. What can you just give us an example of how you help people discover their genius?
Well, this is where a lot of things in my life have come together to be able to do this. But I think I always had this gift. I call it a gift because I think I came in with this gift to be able to see how how the divine moves through somebody, because that's really what genius is. It's how the divine moves through somebody and how they focus that over enough time to make it look really cool. And so I can look at somebody that's wanting this answer of like, what's my genius? What am I here to do? What would be exciting for me? And I can kind of intuitively track it. And sometimes there's some questions I need to kind of focus that a little bit or get somebody focused.
Yeah.
And I can just kind of see it for somebody. And so what I help people do is see that for themselves the way I see it. And then, of course, once you kind of lock into that energetic thread of excitement in somebody, it starts like becoming a flame, a roaring flame. And then it's easy to let things open up, and the path to unfold, or the path to become clear. But it's something that I think is really, if I were to say I had a genius, is I see the genius in others very clearly.
That's
It's a
amazing.
very intuitive gift, really. I say that
I was
because
just going to say that. Yeah.
it's not like I have like an interview form. It's not like that. It's like I ask some questions. We kind of, I don't know. I just see it. It's something I just see.
Huh. That's interesting because I
Yeah.
think it's really being connected to a deeper level of, I mean, being connected, right? To be able to see
Yeah, I
that.
always say there's like Jesse, you in front of me, and then there's like Jesse, the soul level of Jesse, and I
Yeah.
just think, okay, what does soul level Jesse want to tell me? And so I'm not asking you, I'm asking her. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
I didn't want to get all like woo woo. That's what people love to call it that. But that's kind of what you're doing, is connected to that deeper
Mhm.
essence,
And
right?
then
Which is
I
something
hear
that
it.
we
It's
focus
something
on.
that I hear. And this is where I say genius and spirituality are so unbelievably one and the same. You can't talk about genius without talking about a deep spiritual connection, because that is really what genius is. It's about connecting into the perfection of the universe and channeling that through you in a way.
Wow. That
Yeah.
living from that essence,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we talk about on ASQ, is living. That's what we try to discover within people, or help them to
Mhm.
discover. We guide them through that. So I think that's beautiful. And I love that you're doing this work. For our viewers and listeners that are watching and listening, how can they get in touch with you so that they can discover their genius?
Well, one of the most fun things I get to do is my newsletter. And so if you want to find me and subscribe to my free newsletter, it's on Substack. It's Taryn Voget at Substack. And I talk a lot about genius and passion and purpose, and how so many of us are already geniusing, which I think genius is better described as a verb than it is in a noun. And so I talk a lot about geniusing in my free newsletter. So seriously, sign up. It's a fun read. And that's probably the best way to stay connected. And if you go to my Substack, you can get to all my other places like YouTube, my website and stuff. But the free newsletter really is one of the favorite things I get to do, because I think it really helps people see how they're already geniusing.
Huh,
And that
interesting.
that I think is it's empowering when you really realize you're already doing more than you realize.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that. Is there anything that you want to say before we end? I mean, this was a great conversation. You make it sound so easy. Everything's so easy. Talking to you is so natural, but I know that you've overcome a lot of challenges, and you've gone through this transformation to discover your essence, and to how, you're helping people shine in the world. I think that's beautiful and amazing. I mean, I struggle with that now, and I've admitted that on our podcast when we talk about how I'm struggling to discover my voice, and struggling to live from this authentic place, and be the person that I'm meant to be, because for so long you are conformed by societal standards, right? And stepping outside of that and now living from that essence is like, it's hard. So having somebody like you to guide them through that process is a beautiful thing. And I think that's amazing. So what would you say before we end to our
Well,
audience?
I actually think you did the most beautiful ending, which is that stepping into our full self, our true self, the biggest version of us is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no silver bullet. It's moving through all of these moments of questioning, of fear, of am I doing it right? Let me try this. Did that work? Did I like it? Was it fun? And it's iterative. And so the more we can come back to, is this fun? Is this exciting? Does this light me up? And as we do things and we kind of keep that in mind, that is really genius saying. It's focusing our passion in a direction, and not everything we try, we think we might like it, we don't. You might try something, you're like, oh, I thought it would be cool, but it's not. So let me try
Right.
something else, right? Like it's a process. It's not like there's this like life map, but the compass is our passion and our excitement. That's our soul whispering to us, like, go do this thing because that's going to light you up. And here's the crazy thing. The more fear you have, the closer you are to a breakthrough. So most people, when they fear that, they get that intense fear, they pull away because it's so terrifying. But if you can lean in, that is the breakthrough. And it's just that little one action on the other side of terror that is the breakthrough.
Just got to get past that part, right? I know.
And every part of you is saying don't. And if you just like, I hear you, I'm going to do it anyway. The Bear Grylls, right? I'm going to be terrified and do it anyway.
Amazing.
That really is how to do it. And of course you realize it's not scary. And then you get excited by life and so many magical things happen. So if I was to offer anything, it's just what you said. It's like, it's a journey. It's a process. It's us coming back into alignment with who we are and not the programming of who we've been conditioned to be or what we told was the right way to do it, because I actually think a lot of that's really terrible advice.
Oh, I echo that. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, this was an amazing conversation. I'm so glad that I had you on the show today, and thank you for being here. We're really honored. And for everybody who wants to reach out, you already said your what was it again? The website?
Just Substack. Go to Taryn Voget at Substack and find me there.
I'm going to go there.
It's a free newsletter. It's really fun. It comes out every couple of weeks.
I will definitely be going there. Thank you so much, Taryn. Thank you for joining us, and a huge thanks to Taryn for sharing her soul-stirring insights. To discover more and subscribe to her powerful newsletter, visit Taryn Voget at substack.com. Until next time, and remember, find meaning, navigate change, live and lead fully.